Commissioner Tory.
Here.
Okay, sounds like all are in attendance tonight. Was that my speaker fuzzing out, or is that her microphone?
Sounded like hers.
Robin, your signal's just a little bit weak, so you're kind of skipping in and out. And she's gone.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
Now that we've got the technical issues taken care of, if we could all mute our microphones and rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Fine job as always. Item number 4, mayor comments and general announcements. On behalf of the commission, I'd like to extend our condolences to the family of Mike Ellis. Mike was raised in the Sioux, educated in the Sioux, and was a teacher in the Sioux. So the epitome of a great local guy, and he was known as Chubba to all his friends. And today was his funeral, and we certainly have thoughts and prayers for the Ellis family. I was just looking through some of our past packets, and we all know and feel this has been a really tough year, especially given the effects of COVID. And I know a lot of us have had personal losses in 2020, but it is like other years, and not all was bad. And I think in looking at the things that our city has done, I just wanted to outline a couple of them. I know that city manager will have a report later, but this is the last meeting of December and of 2020. We did have a good year. We had a first full year with our new city manager, Brian Chapman. So he started in October or November last year. So this is the first full calendar year. We also have a new city engineer and new city water superintendent. We had some hearings on the residential rental program meetings, and I think those were very productive. We ordered a new ladder truck. We did have an I-500 in 2020, and it went off without a hitch. We said goodbye to a long-term city attorney, and we did hire a firm that specializes in municipal law, and that's working well. And we contracted with the county to take care of our prosecutions. The city clerk's office and the administration centralized polling precincts and had a couple elections, and that went very well. The administration settled union contracts, and there's a new spirit, I think, in the negotiations, and knows that the administration and the unions are working well together. We did held a fireworks display in July that went off without a hitch the next day, but it was a beautiful display and meant a lot, I think, for our freedoms in July. We passed a new marijuana ordinance in the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and we have inquiries, and there are some permitting processes going forward. Finalized a lot of plans and chose engineers and accepted budgets on projects for the Carbide Dock, downtown placemaking project. And we did some road upgrades on West Easter Day out by the industrial park. And I think the big one was the crush and resurface on 19th by Taco Bell. So a lot of really good things that went on. And I know that the commission and I are very proud of the city employees for their perseverance this year and for their professionalism and integrity. We as a commission and administration had 7 in-person meetings at the beginning of the year, and then we had 23 virtual meetings. We only missed 1 meeting because of COVID. So we had over 30 meetings, and things have moved on, and there was not a lapse of city services. So we're very proud of everything that we've had. And I think that with the news of the vaccine, and I see that the local healthcare officials are getting vaccinated, and we appreciate everything they do. And with today's announcement of $100 million in state and $900 billion in federal relief bills that will be coming forward, along with all of the projects that we have that are moving forward. I think we are poised for a very busy and very productive and a great 2021. So we certainly have a lot to look forward to, and we have a lot to be proud of. So thank you to all the staff, all the administration, and certainly the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie for everything that they did in this big year 2020. We'll certainly all look back at this. Some will smile, some will not. So B, proclamations and recognitions. We have none. Item C, public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make any comments on any of the agenda items that we have this evening? One of the agenda items, which one is it? Is a public hearing, and that is item
E1.
thank you. Oh, crap, it's way up there. I was looking down. So item E1 is a public hearing, so you can give us your name and address at that point in time. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the commission on any of these agenda items? Just need your name and residence. So anybody that would like to speak on any of the agenda items this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Amy has her hand risen.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make speak when you have the public hearing part for the elections.
Okay, sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, my microphone or my camera's in the way. Anybody else that would like to speak on any of the agenda items? Okay, moving on. Item D, consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor.
There you are. Okay.
Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the city commission meeting minutes of December 7th, 2020. Item 2, acceptance of the airport advisory board meeting minutes of October 8th, 2020. Item 3, acceptance of the police and fire pension board meeting minutes of October 21st, 2020. Item 4, acceptance of the police fire pension board meeting minutes of November 11th, 2020. Item 5 is acceptance of the. Item 6 is reappoint Terry Wolski, Jim Cloudman, and Fred Smith to the airport advisory board for a term to expire on January 1, 2025. Item 7 is authorization to transfer ownership, city-owned parcel 051-703-017-00 to Christopher Stempke. Item 8 is from Chippewa County Treasurer, county tax foreclosures. And item 9 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Is there any commissioner that would like any of the items further explained or removed from the consent agenda for individual consideration? Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was wondering if item number 7 could be explained to me a little bit more. I'm sorry.
Sure. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item number 7 is a transfer of city-owned land to the neighbor. The property is very small. It doesn't have a strategic purpose to the city. So the neighbor has made a request to have the property, so to say. In exchange for the property, we are being granted an easement on that property as well as the property that he currently owns. So it's a small triangular shape. There's really no use to it. It's certainly nothing you could build a structure on or anything like that. It's just a small little piece of land that's typically confused as the Mr. Stemke's property anyways, so.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner Collins.
So I have questions on number 7 and I have concerns about that as well. Can we pull that off as a separate item and then we can discuss it?
We
Or should I just discuss it now?
Oh, you can ask the questions now if you'd like.
Well, mostly it's just that I'm familiar with the area because my home's down in the Lakeshore subdivision, and that is maybe not as a use to the city, but I know that a lot of the local people in that area use that to put in their small boats or use it as to access as a at the waterfront. So if you look along Lakeshore, and if you look at the photos, you'll see that you can see the partial that shows that. Almost looks like a 2-track going down, right? So the thing, I guess my question is that before we do this, have we talked to people in the area to kind of get their opinion as far as what they want to do? Because if they're using it for, access to the water, being that they're in the shallow subdivision, to me, it's no different than when you look at Lakeshore subdivision and the easements that we have down there along the water for people to get to the water from the subdivision. There's like 4 of them on Lakeshore.
Just real quick, Commissioner Collins, I'm just going to share my screen really quick. I just want to make sure. So this is the property that we're looking at right here.
Okay. You're not talking about the yellow one?
No, sir. Nope. No. This is the property we're talking about right here. This
Okay.
yellow one actually shows a city-owned easement there. So this is not part of the deal. It is just this highlighted triangular piece right here.
Okay. All right, then I have no questions or concerns.
Perfect.
Thanks for that clarification.
Not a
I
problem.
thought it was a
Sorry.
yellow one for some reason.
And that's all right. I could see that. I apologize, but when you started saying people were using this to get to the water, I thought maybe there was an underground tunnel or something there. It didn't quite add up. So, just so everyone's clear, this is the property that we are looking at right here. And you can see it's a small triangular property. You couldn't fit much of a house or a parking lot. The land policy does have a provision within it for us to dispose of these properties without bidding or anything like that. So that's kind of the basis of this. It's just a small little piece of property.
Thank you for that explanation.
Just one
Anybody
more.
else? Commissioner Miller. Oh,
I
sorry.
just want to say, along with Commissioner Collins, I thought it was the section in yellow there. I didn't know that was the little triangular piece. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner Collins, you had your,
Well, I just wanted to ask about the land policy. Isn't it if the property is contiguous to your own property that it doesn't have to go out for bid? Is that how it works?
There could be a portion in that policy that says that too, but the one that we were kind of keying in on this one was I see Director Freeman's on here. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more, but there's a provision within it that says if it's not, suitable for building, the city can dispose of it a little bit quicker, so to say. But Kelly can say a little more.
No, that's okay. I got, that was fine. Thank you. Unless he wants to.
You're free to continue if you like.
looks like he muted himself, so we'll move on. Any other questions? All right, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, Commissioner Tuarte?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Support.
So moved and supported. Any other questions or comments? I'm stuck on that picture now. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Baspis Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talent,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarte.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Good information. Under E, special orders of business, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up first for commission consideration is a request from staff regarding a resolution to change municipal election years from odd to even years. This was an item we brought forward to all the commissioners during the last commission meeting. Per the process as established by state statute, we are bound to have a public hearing, which we will do tonight. The request is being made by staff in part to align ourselves with the state election process as well as the school and the county election process. There's also a financial benefit to switching our current standalone elections in odd years to even years. with this request, each of your terms would also be pushed out for 1 more year to get back in line with the proposed change if this is to go through. With that said, at this time, Mr. Mayor, we would request you to open up the public hearing, take in comments, and then close the public hearing.
Thank you, City Manager. So at this time, we will have a public hearing on the consideration of a resolution to change municipal election years from odd to even years. So we'll open the public hearing, and Amy Hierstadt had said she would like to make some comments. So Amy, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mayor. So again, thanks. My name's Amy Yerstead. I live at 2207 West 5th Avenue in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. As the board knows, so I'm a member with the League of Women Voters, and the league got together and we discussed this, and the consensus was that we agreed that this is a wonderful move for the city because we'll be saving, as was mentioned on the last city commission meeting, $15,000 per, I don't remember if it's per year, or per election, but it's a considerable amount of money. As well as we know that voter turnout is higher during our even elections when we have midterm and presidential elections. So for both of those points alone, we think that this is a great move. As a voter organization, and one that really talks about and holds dear is accountability and transparency, is that because the commissioners were voted for 2-year terms, we believe that this should happen if the change is voted on tonight, that it shouldn't happen until each term is up, and then we move into the next. So essentially what we're saying is that it should be, you serve out your 2 years or your 4 years, but you don't get that extra year. And so otherwise I think this is a great thing. I think that staff bringing this forward was wonderful. Really appreciate it. Our only hesitant would be having that extra year because it's not what the voters had voted on. They voted on a specific term. That's, it's kind of like seeing sort of like a contract. Your contract was 4 years, not 5 years. Or 2 years, not 3 years. And so that was our big hesitation was not giving an extra year, because that's not what voters had voted for at the election. And that's our only thing.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else during the public hearing on the consideration of a resolution to change municipal election years from odd to even years? So the floor is open if anybody would like to make any comments. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing on the motion to approve a resolution changing municipal elections from odd to even years. And we will go to the commission, and I think last meeting we went forward order, and this meeting will go reverse order. So we'll start with Commissioner Twardy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I have a couple of comments, and I am concerned. I'm concerned about moving this to general elections simply because of the partisan politics. And I'm pretty much I am the only commissioner who has run in a large election, and I've done it twice. And partisan politics are horrible. People say horrible things about you just because you're not the party that they think that you should be. In fact, there's a person in town who I was starting to become friends with. He was I shouldn't have said gender. The person was a customer of mine. And then when I announced that I was running for state representative on the Republican Party, he just could not handle that. And we're no longer friends. He's no longer a customer to my store. And it really hurt my feelings, the things that people say about you. And I know that we will stay nonpartisan, but that's not what people will generally do. People will generally gravitate towards making us partisan candidates. And in fact, you will see, president, and you'll see state, and then you'll see county, and then you'll see local elections. And I love the fact that we are a nonpartisan group. We never discuss partisan politics. We don't run on the same years. I mean, the general election this year was a nightmare. and just with how angry people are. And so these are the concerns that I have. I feel like we just need to keep it the way that it is. And it's not because I'm opposed to changing things. I just think that we really need to remain independent with what's happening at the state and happening at the federal level, because we really are the purest form of government. And we get to see the changes that we make. We actually get to see how they impact our community. And I really don't want people to be able to just run because they are a party one way or the other. And people make their minds up. They will just decide that because you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, that they are not voting for you, or they're going to vote for you. And I want to see us get in here on merit. I want to see us get in here on working for this. And I don't think you should be able to just plop your sign in somebody's yard just because they're the favored candidate in town for president. And then all of a sudden you're just going to get that down ticket. I'm also concerned about our placement on the ballot. We're going to be on the backside. And so for the people who do just automatically vote straight party ticket, a lot of people don't turn them over and look at the proposals, will be at the bottom of the ballot. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have better voter turnout. In fact, I think it creates lazier voters. I think that people are less involved in what's happening at the local level if all they're doing is focusing on federal and state elections. And I know that we're talking about a savings of $7,500, but I think that every 2 years, I think that one of the things, if we really want to do anything, I think that we could get rid of the primary. I think the primary in our charter is just completely bogus. If 15 people want to run for mayor and 25 people want to run for city commission, put them on the ballot. There's no reason to have a primary in our elections, and that would save the taxpayers that much money. And so you're talking about an election every 2 years. And if we got rid of the primary, what are we talking about? A general election costs the city taxpayers every 2 years, Robin.
City manager. City manager to Robin, thanks.
Robin's frozen, I think, a little bit. I think each election, Robin was saying it's about $7,500 each.
Okay, so it's $7,500 every 2 years because we don't have an election every year. We have one every 2 years. And so when you break that down, if we were to get rid of the primary, you're really only talking about $3,750. And, you know, I mean, we tend to be a pretty conservative community. And so it's going to be easier for conservative people to run for office. And I don't think that that should be right. I think that we need to have differing opinions, because differing opinions is what helps us come together and represent the community as a whole. I don't think that they should all be conservative, and I don't think that they should all be liberal, but just the tendency, I think, of what the voters will do is they will turn us into partisan candidates. And that being said, I am yielding the floor to the next commissioner.
Thanks for your comments. Commissioner Talentino.
Thank you, Your Honor. For myself, I'm all for this. And here's the reason why. I'm not going to make this a right or left issue. I think the biggest people that are going to make this a right or left issue is us commissioners, you know, so I'm going to totally keep that right out of the equation. People are going to think what they want to think, and that's up to them. I'm just thinking the amount of money that we can save. And the reason I'm saying that would have been nice for maybe to open up the restrooms up at the ball fields this summer, maybe open up the fish cleaning stations for the outdoorsmen. Heck, we could even put it towards the hood at the puller, you know, so right now I think every penny counts. So yes, I'm all for this. I think it's a great idea. The right or left is totally out of it for me. It means nothing. And I'm all for this, so I'll be voting yes this evening. Thank you. I yield.
Thanks, Commissioner. We'll go to Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been back and forth on this since 2 weeks ago when we talked about it. First of all, I don't know if these the dollar figures that we're talking about, I don't know if they're correct or not. If there was in an election cycle for us, if there was a primary and a general election, it may be $15,000. I can't think of the last time we had a primary. I think it's been quite a while. But even though I'm one of the junior members on this board, I ran in the late 80s, and we used to have the primary election in February, and we used to have the general election in April. It was a springtime type thing. And I think when the city fathers put this together and did the city charter, they wanted it so much to be a nonpartisan thing. I don't know what year it changed to the August and November. I don't know when that was. If we could save the taxpayers guaranteed every 2 years $15,000, I would be in favor of this. But if we don't have a primary election, you're probably looking at $7,500. And for that amount of money to keep us, when I say us, I don't mean us that are on here right now, but to keep the board nonpartisan, I think it's worth it. And like I said, I've been back and forth, especially in this year of the pandemic when we don't have much money. It would be great to save the taxpayers a certain amount of money, but you also want it to be nonpartisan. And when this comes up for a vote, I'm going to vote no. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Collins.
Okay, sorry, I had to get my thing on. I agree with Commissioner Twardy and Commissioner Miller on both their points. I think the thing that I look at as far as when you talk about the partisan back and forth is that regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat, you know, there's just so much going on during a presidential election or a state election that I want to make sure that we keep our elections clean and away from all the minutia that's out there. And the way we have it set up right now, it does exactly that, meaning that if you were to, you know, somebody has a sign in a president and then the favorite president, as Commissioner Twardy said, you know, then that might garner some votes. But then you put a sign in somebody's yard, and whether you're for them or not, it's, you know, and the other presidential candidate's sign is there as well. Next thing you know, you could be persecuted. And regardless of whether or not that's something that people think will actually happen or not, I just like the idea of making sure that we're not getting into that type of minutia and drama. And also, I think that it takes away from really what we want to accomplish is from a city level. We want people to be involved. We want people to turn out for city elections. Just because you're going to get more people out for presidential elections doesn't mean that they're really out there to basically vote for city officials. And they might not even actually get any more information, or they may even get less information as far as what we're actually about and what we're going to deal with. I know for me, by the end of this year, I didn't want another phone call, and I sure in the heck didn't want any more mail. So if you're looking at, you know, from a city level, our position on the ballot is the last page, and the fact that there's so many things to look at, you know, are we going to get lost in that big basically box? So I like the idea that we have it on separate cycles. From a standpoint of saving money, yeah, absolutely. You know, we always want to look for ways to save money, but I look at this as a service that we do for our citizens. Yes, we have the choice that we can vote tonight to go ahead and change this to where it's possibly going to save, you know, $3,700 to $7,500 every 2 years. But that's also taken away something that they're accustomed to and a right that they have to get basically non-diluted or more information on the city politics that we're dealing with. The other thing is that I look at us as basically public servants. I don't look at us as politicians. I don't want to ever be looked at as a politician. So, you know, when you're looking at those bigger type of elections, you know, those are the considered politicians, and I don't think that's us, and I don't want to be, personally, I don't want to be a part of that. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Bossis-Rath.
Hi, I have a question. I'm wondering, has this ever been brought up in the past? Just curious. Anybody? No.
Deputy Manager, Can you comment on it? I think it's been discussed. I don't know if it's ever officially been brought to the commission before.
It's,
I don't remember it.
yeah, it's never been brought before the commission before, but realize that the resolution that gives us the authority to move our elections from odd to even year is fairly new legislation. And prior to that legislation, it would have had to been a charter amendment, which is the process for us to eliminate the primary election. We can't do that by resolution, and the commission can't make that determination. It has to be a charter amendment brought to the vote of the people. So this is new legislation, so it's not something that the commission has discussed previously.
Okay.
This resolution was effective in 2013, so it's been there for 7 years. I
Okay.
don't recall any discussion of that in the last 7 years. Do you, Commissioner Torti?
Okay, thanks. I will say I agree with Commissioner Collins over, I would be afraid that our city election would get overshadowed. The other thing is the straight ticket. I know in presidential elections, a lot of people do go in and just vote straight ticket and they would miss the city commission election then. So I'm going to be voting against it and I'm not going to talk it to death. I think everybody's kind of covered it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Baker.
Okay, so a few things. I think that if we do not vote yes for this, I think it's going to be, personally, I feel like it's going to be self-serving for us as commissioners, because what I've heard so far, I understand what you're saying, but as far as the overshadowing and our message getting lost and through, that's on us. It's on us to make sure that people know that we're on the back of the ballot. It's on us to know, to let people know what our platform is. That's on us. So I think this is about saving taxpayer money. And also too, we have an election every year, whether it's state, city. I am sick of signs every year. I am sick. At least we get a little bit of a reprieve. We save money, tax-paying money. We have, not only are we in a pandemic, we put ice on a polar that's closed right now, guys. We need as much money as possible. And I was elected by my constituents to save tax-paying money. And this is an easy fix. It improves voter turnout, which will hopefully improve our message getting out to the public, because they will be engaged with politics as a whole. And then it's on us to make sure that they know we're on the back of the ballot. I think it's about saving taxpayer money and voter turnout. And if we don't do it, it's because we don't, in my opinion, want to work harder campaigning. But that's my 2 cents, and I'll be voting yes for it. But
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I certainly appreciate everybody's comments, and they do make sense on both sides. I just have a question for you, City Manager. Amy had a good point with the how would you really couldn't affect this change without adding to everybody's term, correct?
I can't think of a way. I mean, it's either going to be with the current commission that would have an additional year, or it would be subsequent commissioners or mayors that would have one additional year at once. So to switch from odd to even, somebody's going to have an extended term once. And I'm not sure if the statute, I don't recall, maybe Deputy Manager does, I don't recall if the statute dictates that it would be the current sitting elected body, or if it could be deferred to future elected bodies. I would be surprised if the latter was permissible. Do you recall, Robin?
Yeah, it's my understanding the resolution has to be approved by December 31st, for example, in this year, for it to take effect for next year, 2021, therefore moving our city elections to 2022. So I don't know how there's a way to not extend the term for either the current or future commissioners.
Okay. And then just a quick question. I think Commissioner Miller stated it correctly. When you say 7,500 per election, you mean 7,500 for a primary and 7,500 for a general. So it would be, if we had a primary, it'd be 15,000 in savings per year.
Deputy Manager, we take this one so I don't misspeak.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, so potentially $7,500 per election. August, $7,500. November, $7,500 for every year from here on out. That is a potential 15,000 savings per year here on out, because we would be aligning with the other elections.
And does that also account for the wear and tear on the clerk's office and the overtime and everything else that goes into these election years? And certainly there's an opportunity cost when you're concentrating on these elections and can't concentrate on other items.
So there would
Yes.
certainly be an opportunity, yeah, in the future when those off years, I don't want to say odd or even, those off years, there may not be an election. So that's one full year where the clerk's department can focus on other tasks. And I don't want to make it sound like an election is a trivial thing, but that would be one full year without the clerk's office having to stop what they're doing to focus on an election. They're a process. There's a lot of reporting. There's a lot of testing and a lot of process work that goes into hosting an election. And so, you know, at a certain point, we would be able to get into the flows of elections to where there's a good chance there would be an off year for the clerk staff.
And not to put you on the spot, maybe Robin, but how many hours do you think are consumed in a typical election of Robin's time, her staff's time, that's really not accounted for in that 7,500?
Robin, you go ahead.
Okay, so the clerk's office consists of 3 full-time staff. I think some people think election day is election day, but our prep work in the department is months in preparation, and then it extends beyond with our closeout reporting. And I'm still working on the November audit preparing, or the November election preparing for an audit. So it's not just election day, there's months of preparation ahead of it, and there's work on the tail end of it. So that $7,500 per election does not take into account the clerk's office staff time. That just takes into account the election inspectors that are hired on election day, the ballot envelopes, the ballots, the equipment, the programming, all of those ancillary costs that goes into an election. That doesn't take into account the clerk's office staff time.
Okay, which is immense, as we can see from. And then on the other hand, I very clearly see I don't want to be considered part of a partisan group either. We are nonpartisan for a reason, and I have supporters from both parties and I have detractors from both parties. But certainly I agree with Commissioner Collins' comments. We do this out of service to our community. It's not about being a politician, because I never think of myself as a politician. So we do this to serve our community and serve the good. And I think Commissioner Baker made a good point. It is up to us to make sure that the general public and the voting public knows that, you know, we are serving the public and we are on that ballot and we are nonpartisan, and you better look beyond your, you know, single vote, whatever we call it, and look at those. And I think it is up to I do have a little bit of a fear that people may affiliate us with one party or another based on, you know, how many signs they have of each party. But I think that's up to us to differentiate. So I think, and coming into this, I was totally, didn't know either way, but I think in hearing city clerk's time commitment and savings and potential for savings, I think I would be going forward a yes vote as I was at the last meeting. So So let's go around. If anybody has any questions or comments, Commissioner Miller has a hand up.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I have a question for Robin.
Okay.
What year did they change the city elections from February and April till August and November? What year was that?
Well, I've been with the city for 13 years and it was prior to my time. So it's been some time, and that, you know, that was the state.
I forgot I'm much older than you.
Yeah, so that was the state's effort to help realign some of these elections so you don't end up with a ballot with one race on it.
Sure. I just wondered what the cost savings may have been at that time when it changed.
That I don't know. So much has changed in elections since then. I mean, for example, our permanent AV list used to be about 500 voters. Now we're nearing 3,500 voters. So if you think with that regard, mail out an application to those 3,500 voters and potentially a ballot. So that is increasing our costs just from a year ago, the way elections were administered. So from back in that day to now, it's probably a big difference.
Well, when you say back in that day, that hurts my heart so bad.
Could be worse.
Just real quick to Commissioner Miller's question. There's a note on Muni Code within the election date, section 3.4 of the charter, that says there was a resolution passed January 4th, 1971. So I don't know if that's specifically the one you're referring to, but that's the only note that's shown up during that time.
There must have been something after that, Mr. Chapman, because I ran in the late 80s and our primary was in February and our general election was in April.
Yeah, and that's the only note I can find.
Okay.
You remember walking through snowbanks, eh, Commissioner?
Yeah, I do. Well, you didn't have to put the signs in the yard, like in the ground. You could just put them in the snowbank, whatever. Then they would fall over when we get a thaw. Before I yield, I'd like to say that, like I said, when I first started my comments, I'm back and forth on this, but if there's even a chance that we can save the taxpayers $15,000 in election cycle, I think we should do it. And if anyone has a problem that the commissioners that are here now are going to get an extra year on their term, I'm very, very sorry. But if this issue comes up 10 years from now or 5 years from now, whoever's on the commission, it's still going to happen. So I think I've changed my vote. I think I've changed my mind, and I appreciate everyone's information. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Bospis-Rath.
Yeah, this is one that I've been going on, like Commissioner Miller said, and Robin, I apologize. I didn't realize that it was 15,000 a year, plus, you know, the clerk's office time. But I do agree with Commissioner Baker and Mayor Gary. It's a tough one, but I would be voting for a yes if it's going to save that much money a year. I can't see how we can't vote yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Tuardi.
So
Just because you had a pen and an index finger raised.
pen and a finger. So if we only have an election every 2 years, how is it saving $15,000 a year?
Election year.
It would be the election years. And then we would actually be saving a little bit more money. Yeah. Robin, can you explain it before I get tongue-tied and mess this up?
Yeah. So right now, the city holds their elections in odd year. If we have a primary, $7,500. If we in November, $7,500, because we're the only thing on that odd year ballot. We usually, the city elections, aside from maybe a proposal, we are the only thing on the ballot. We burden the entire cost of those elections. If we align ourselves with the school, county, state, federal elections, we're already expending those costs for those elections. So we're just on that ballot with those other elections or other races. So it's a savings for us not to administer a standalone election on our own in an odd year.
Okay, so it's really, I mean, again, it's $15,000 every 2 years because we run every 2 years. And that's if we have a primary, right? Because the years that there's a state election and a federal election, we don't burden the cost of those elections. Right?
It depends. So, like the November election, that was our expense. That expense came out of my budget. The March primary, I got reimbursed from the state. So the March primary, we got reimbursed. The August election was on us. The November election was on us.
Okay. Wow, that seems kind of crazy to run a state and federal election and we burden the cost for it.
Yeah. And, I'd like to just say that elections is my job. It doesn't, matter to me if I run elections in odd years, even years. We serve the public. That's what we do. Only recommended this as a efficiency, cost-saving measure to the taxpayers, regardless of the commission's decision. We're happy to proceed in whatever direction the commission recommends. It's just a suggestion or a recommendation from the department to streamline the process and save some taxpayer dollars.
I know that, and I have been so thankful since November 4th to have such an outstanding clerk's office for both of our city and our county, because when you see what's happening around the state and around the country with so many people questioning, I just have never questioned our clerk's office at all. And so that is an amazing feeling to have, and we're not politicians, we are public servants. I probably am leaning to change my vote, and it's not because of the self-serving comment. I think that I'm actually being anti-self-serving because I'm really concerned about us becoming partisan. I really am. And I'm the only one that's actually been in that world for a little while, and it's nasty. And I mean, I love to think that I have people on both sides of the aisle that support me, but if we are aligning ourselves in yards with political parties, it could come back to hurt us and to haunt us. But if we're gonna save that much money and time out of Robin's office, then I'm probably willing to vote yes on this, even though I am very concerned about what's going to happen. I think that there are going to be some people that it's just really easy to run and they're not going to have to work for it just because they identify with other candidates. So that being said, I'll probably support this just because of listening to Robin. Sorry, too many messages going on. I wish that people would message us, because this is just the commission talking, and so we're not supposed to be reading these messages off on the side of Zoom. And so during just the commission discussion, those messages should not be popping up. So that comment, sorry.
Great. Okay, great comments, and I would like to echo what you said about the city clerk's office and the confidence that we have with city and county clerk. It's fantastic, and the machinery we use has been in the news, but never a glitch. And Robin does a stellar job, so thank you very much for all that. And I have the same concerns with being perceived as partisan, and we need to make that commitment to keep it clean and nonpartisan. So Commissioner Collins has been very patient with his.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a couple things. Number one, when you're talking about the savings of potentially $7,500 every 2 years, which is going to be basically a $15,000 savings, potentially every 4 years, if that's what I got correct from what Robin said, if my math is correct.
No.
Yeah, that's correct. My math is correct.
It's not correct.
Yeah, there's no primary every 2 years. So $7,500 for one election. And then you'd have another 2 years, you'd have another election. So that's $15,000 potential savings every 4 years. Not $15,000 a year, not $15,000 every 2 years. Correct, Robin?
Depends on if there's a primary or not.
Right, but we haven't had a primary in forever, so that's what I'm basing it on.
Well, just a note on the last cycle, we did have a number of candidates that would have triggered a primary. Unfortunately, they didn't garner enough signatures and therefore were disqualified. But, and that was at the last minute, but we did receive enough candidate interest to trigger a primary last cycle.
So the biggest issue that I have with this is, and I know that we want to save money. Number one, you know, I think that we do a pretty good job as far as looking for ways to save money and streamline our budgets and be as efficient as possible. I don't think this is the place that we should do it, primarily from a standpoint of making sure that our city elections are city elections and focus on the city. The second thing of it is that I don't think that we should be voting to extend our terms. If an example would be, why can't we just put this on the ballot next year? Yep, we'll pay for the election next year, but at least the citizens then can determine whether we want to do it or not. At that point, people that were elected next year would be elected for a 5-year term versus a 4-year term. We would get added 1 year to our term, and then basically we would do the same thing we're doing right now. My point is that even though we have the right and the state gives us the right to make this decision, if there's a way to take time away from us, or to have the people actually vote on making the changes, then I would be for it. But I'm absolutely a no, because I don't think that to me, the cost savings that you're talking about is not going to justify the harm that I see that can happen to our city politics or elections based on the changes that we're talking about. And I do respect the fact that, you know, Robin and her team brought this to us basically saying, hey, look, we don't care one way or the other. And I know that they work hard and it's part of their job, but they do a great job. And even though it's part of their job description, you know, I think a lot of times people don't realize how much they go above and beyond. And I'm very thankful for that. But, you know, on the other side of it, from an administration standpoint, our job isn't to make their job easier, right? I mean, their job is to do their job. And Robin does it well and probably more efficient than somebody else that would be in her position. So from that standpoint, you know, I'm not looking at making administration's job easier, no offense. I'm just looking at what's the best for our community. And, you know, if we're going to make a change like this, personally, I'm not going to make the decision. I'm still a no. I don't want to make that decision adding terms to our time frame. I yield.
Thanks, Commissioner. And Commissioner Miller?
Yes, just 2 quick comments, Your Honor. First of all, I think a lot of this has been confused because people are using the word year. We've thrown out 3 different numbers, 15,000, 7,500, and 3,750. I'm sure Robin will back me up on this. It's $15,000 an election cycle if there is a primary. If you have a primary and you have a general election, it's $15,000. A couple of commissioners have said the word year. It's not a year, it's in an election cycle. And before we vote, just on a personal note, I can't believe nobody remembers when it was February and April. It makes me feel really old. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Baker, you had your hand up.
Yeah, as far as the bipartisan, I understand that. I agree with you guys. But at the same time, I believe that, again, that falls back on us. If we want to remain bipartisan during those, then don't put a sign in a yard with somebody else's sign. It's really about how we run our campaigns and how we put out our platform and make the public aware. And I think this is exactly what the community needs to get engaged, to help, you know, with the voter turnout and to start paying more attention to what's going on within city politics. And again, on top of the money saving per election year with the administration and what Robin and they have to do, and this is a recommendation coming from them, you know, I think this is what is the best thing. In my opinion, it's a win-win all the way around.
Commissioner Baker, do you want to make a motion?
Yes, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution changing the municipal election years from odd to even.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Are there any questions or comments before we have a roll call vote? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Baskus Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
No.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
No.
Mayor Gary.
Yes. Motion passed on a 5-2 vote. Thank you very much. It was great discussion and I think great points made by every single commissioner. So
Changed my mind.
thank you very much. Moving on to item, where are we tonight? F, communications, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple communications coming to the commission tonight. First is from the Downtown Development Authority. A few months ago, they did a survey to some of the downtown property businesses and property owners. They were trying to solicit some kind of gauge regarding the ability to make permissible in the downtown area cannabis retail businesses. In short, the data that we provided you, I believe it looked like there was about 40 to 50 respondents. It was kind of split down to half. 27 respondents supported it, 23 opposed it. Of those that supported and opposed it, 16 were business owners that were in favor, 14 were business owners that were opposed to the idea. The DDA just wanted to forward this information to the commission. They're not necessarily making a recommendation at this time. Included in the communication are the minutes from the August 12th DDA meeting, as well as a copy of the survey tool. So they are just forwarding this to the commission for discussion purposes. Period.
Thank you, City Manager. We'll go through the roll call and see if we have any questions or comments. Commissioner Talentino?
No, I'm all set on this one, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Miller?
I think it's great that we had this survey. I don't support cannabis inside our city limits anyway, so thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Collins? Any questions or comments?
No, thank you. I'm good.
All right. Commissioner Baskus-Rath?
Just a question. Do we know how many surveys were sent out? It says 50 participants responded.
Ooh, that I'm not sure of. I'm imagining this was sent out. Who sent this out? I don't recall if it was the former
Larry.
DDA. Was it Larry?
Larry,
Yeah, it was.
yeah.
It was the DDA board member, Larry. President. Yeah. No, he was at the time. Yeah. I'm not sure if he used some kind of distribution list or what the pool of emails were. I could ask how many they sent out. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. I'm just curious to see how many people, I mean, how many were sent versus how many responded, but.
Right.
Oh,
Good question.
thank you.
That's a good question.
Commissioner Baker?
Yeah, a few things on this. One, I was disappointed with Mr. Nepper, and he knows that. We've talked about this, he and I, as far as getting this out way too late in the game, and not getting this before us prior to doing the zoning with the cannabis. I think this is something that we really need to look into, because I think it should be allowed downtown, within, whether just like a bar, it's capitalism. It's being talked about going federal legal here in the near future. With COVID, the empty buildings we have, this survey, I think, was quickly thrown together. I also feel like out of these 50 participants, there's one thing to send it to a business owner, but what about the person that owns the building? Did they send it to that person who pays the taxes on the empty building that's sitting there? Did they get a survey, or is it just the open businesses?
I
And-
believe they got it. Hold on a second. I gotta pull up the data. So the kind of classifications of the people that responded was both business owner and resident, downtown employee, neighbor, no response, property owner within city limits, Sault Ste. Marie downtown business owner, Sault Ste. Marie downtown property owner, Sault Ste. Marie downtown resident.
I didn't get the survey.
What's that?
I said I didn't get the survey.
was
I
in-
just
Oh, yeah, I get you.
I just feel like I think it could maybe be done again to have a big look at it, because I think it's a missed opportunity for some of the empty buildings out there, for the small micro businesses that could be in place down there. Not only that, but generate traffic back downtown. I mean, and on top of it, as well as in the future with how things go with the market for infusion of foods and things like that. And our restaurant industry and our hospitality I don't know how they're ever going to recover. So any opportunity they have to help their business along, and if this is an avenue that they can take to do so, I think we need to be supportive of that. So just something to think about for the future. I don't know if we can get another survey out. I know this was done, a while ago. I feel like, back in August. I don't know. I think we should talk about allowing it within the downtown district.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Twardy.
Yeah, thank you. As far as, I didn't receive this survey either, and we own one building, which our business operates in it. And then we own two other businesses which operate within a building owned by somebody else. And so I would think somebody that runs 3 businesses in town might get this survey. But Abby Commissioner Baker does bring up a good point. As food and beverages are going to be starting to be infused, in fact, Shorts already has all the patents, and they're working towards infusing beer with cannabis. And if we are going to be refusing our downtown business owners from being able to bring in a whole new line of products that another area might be able to sell, then I think we're going to be limiting our businesses. Food is also going to be infused. In fact, Sugar Daddy Bakery, they might get to the point where they're and I don't want to talk on behalf of them because they might have their own thoughts and ideas, but that's just an example. Other places that have baked goods, even coffee. Right now we sell CBD infused products, and CBD is legal, but so we might want to take a look at this and revisit it and discuss it, because as it does move to a federal law, we certainly don't want to limit any of our businesses in town.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Collins.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say that I agree with Commissioner Twardy and Commissioner Baker, and I, 3, am one that did not receive a survey either. So all 3 of us own buildings downtown and none of us got a survey. That's kind of interesting. So for me, I think that we need to have another survey done to basically take a look at this. Or just take a look at it and, from a standpoint of making sure that we're allowing not only business owners, but building owners downtown, all the opportunities that should be available to them to be able to thrive in a changing retail industry.
Thanks, Commissioner. We'll go back to Commissioner Baker and then.
I just want to say, for the sake of time, because it's always a survey and this and that, I really don't think we need another survey. The community voted for it. The state voted for it. It's going federal. As far as I'm concerned, by not allowing it, we are picking and choosing what we allow in. So no more auto stores downtown, or no more this downtown, no more bars. This is America. This is capitalism. The strong will survive. We can zone it to make it so it's only micro business. we can make sure that we put policies in place, that they have the right air filtration system and all those things. We can do those things, but as far as I'm concerned, we should not be telling them, no, you can't come to our downtown streets, when we have a number of empty buildings that people are struggling right now. And this is a huge, huge industry that's only going to continue to grow. And I'm not only in, like Commissioner Torti said, with the baked goods, you're going to be able to infuse your dinners, your appetizers. It could be a 4-course meal. The possibilities are really endless with this industry. And I think we are selling not only our community short, but our building owners, and that by not really taking this and looking at it from the administration point of view for the zoning, the micro business, the filtration, and what policies other municipalities have put in place for their downtowns that do allow those micro businesses and retail shops. Maybe if we can have the administration do some research on what other cities are doing, and we can, revisit this in the upcoming months in the new year.
I think everybody had a lot of great comments, and given the time and effort that Kelly Freeman and Brian Chapman and the administration put into our zoning to approve marijuana facilities, I think that if the Downtown Development Authority has enough will, then they will come to us with a recommendation rather than just a survey with no recommendation at all. So I'm certain that all the commissioners would certainly look at that with open eyes and open minds, and certainly the planning commission would get together. But I think what we did, what we passed, and what Kelly put together for us was good. It was relevant and timely, and so I think the burden is on DDA. If they want us to consider something, they maybe should put a plan together. So seeing nothing as far as a motion, let's move on to, well, quickly, let's move on. We have our poor accountant who we're paying by the minute waiting for us. Commissioner Collins.
Tell them they don't get paid till we start talking to them. I guess my thought process is that if we want to change it from a commission standpoint, I mean, do we really have to wait for the DDA to come to us? I mean, obviously they have flawed data. So I guess my question is what's the process if we don't get what we want to basically have come from the DDA to basically take a look at maybe implementing some of these changes that we're talking about? I mean, nothing against the work that they had done, and we all approved the zoning that they came to us with. And I think that at the time we were all pretty much in favor of keeping the retail shops kind of off of the main street. But to Commissioner Baker's point, when you look at the number of vacant buildings we have downtown, if these are going to be businesses that can produce foot traffic that is going to bring more people into the downtown area to create that basically energy and flow, then I'm for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller?
I would just like a little clarification. When Commissioner Baker said the community voted for this, what exactly did the community vote for?
The community voted when the state put cannabis legal in the state. Chippewa County voted for it.
For recreational marijuana. Not for places that.
Well, it's for everything.
The community, I just want to, Commissioner Baker, I just want to say, the community has never voted for us to put places in these empty buildings with cannabis. The community has never voted on that, and you have to go with that. That's completely true.
The community voted to legalize marijuana.
Correct.
So,
yes,
so that means
but they said nothing about. But they said nothing about.
It's legal in downtown.
Grow ops and retail.
Still legal in downtown. It's still legal in downtown, Shane.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item F2.
Bunch of junk.
City man, whoops, you're not muted there, Commissioner.
I said junk.
City Manager Chapman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission, coming from the Economic Development Corporation, is the E-Cities Award. I will turn it off to EDC Director Holt.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Commissioner, City Manager. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm pleased to announce that once again this year, the University of Michigan has recognized Sault Ste. Marie as a 4-star community. And it's very interesting this year in the many changes that have and challenges that we've had. This year, the University of Michigan did not garner any applications. They went through and evaluated communities without taking application process. And we found that interesting, and as it turns out, it worked out well for us. The E-Cities project is a division of the School of Business at the University of Michigan, and it highlights the successes and continued commitment for the cities in Michigan to grow and support entrepreneurship within their communities. And that's right from the project manager for the iLabs or University of Michigan. The real positive thing that I got of all this is they list all of the 4-star communities in Michigan. And just so you know, they evaluated data from 277 communities with 54 counties in Michigan. And we are compared to Auburn Hills, Dearborn, Escanaba, Holland, Lansing, Petoskey, Port Huron, St. Clair Shores, Traverse City, just to name a few. So I'm real happy that we've received this award again. This is the 7th time we've received an E-Cities award, and I'd like to, when we can all get together, present it to the mayor and proudly display it in our city offices. So congratulations to our community. We're doing a lot of the right things. Are we content? No. We'll continue to work hard, and we'll try to keep this tradition going for us. But congratulations to our community.
Thanks, Jeff. What it's a great institution, and certainly the EDC deserves congratulations, and we need to thank you. 7 years, it's amazing. And I don't know if Brian, can you just show the award real quick, or is that a
Yep, just give me a second.
task? But
Nope.
unfortunately, nobody was able to go down there and receive the award, I'm assuming, but
No, they didn't have a ceremony this year, and which is unfortunate, but that's the award there.
There we go.
Nice.
Great job, EDC. Great job, city. Certainly is a testament to all of the hard work that everybody does. So any commissioners have any comments for EDC Director Holt or City Manager Chapman? Now I can't see you all. Any comments or questions? All right.
Well,
Great
if I may,
job.
this might help us too in getting future grants for our community as well. And this information will be on hand for anyone that needs it inside our community. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Moving on to G, business items number 1, City Manager Chapman, and I know that Mr. Talsma is anxiously awaiting. Sorry we're so far down on the agenda tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is the review and presentation of the 2020 annual audit. Included in the item is the actual audit itself, which was emailed earlier this week as well as some other attachments. There is a PowerPoint that we'll kind of turn over to Finance Director Collins. She can share that. At the end of the presentation, if there are any questions, or as we're going along, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. But with this item, we would look for a motion to accept the audited financial statements. With that, I'll turn it over to Director Collins and Mr. Telsman.
I'd like to thank the commission for having me present the audit for 2020. And I'm glad to find out I'm being paid by the hour. I didn't know that from before. But right off the bat, the biggest things with the audit each year is giving of an opinion. The city, like so many other cities and counties and school districts, has to have an audit annually to make sure that finances are presented correctly with the different government accounting standards, statements, and rules of the state and all these things, and make sure the processes are sound as far as collecting and distributing money and reporting everything. And we've always found that through all our testing and all of our evidence gathering. So when we get to the end of all that, we find that everything's supported and reasonable and seems to be in the right categories. We give an opinion, and the city receives the unmodified, which is equivalent to the clean opinion or the opinion that you want from an audit. You received the same type last year. The only thing in addition to this opinion is you had a single audit for 2020 because of the additional money for the facades grants. I think there was $373,000 spent to help downtown businesses, a few of them redo their storefronts as well as other parts of the stores. And I think there's about $505,000 spent at the rental rehabilitation programs to add additional housing. So that pushes us over the top. The top's about $750,000 requiring one. So some additional audit work done because of that. And at the end of that, we also give an opinion to make sure that the federal awards were managed and spent and reported properly in accordance with the federal government's guidelines. And the grantor giving both of those grants was the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So everything went well with administering those grants and doing what the federal government wants with those as well. Next, then I'll get into my PowerPoint presentation showing the finances. Usually this is a little bit more useful than just looking at financial statements. I assume Kristen will pull up the presentation and we'll start looking at the balance sheet. The first cover page is right there, and then now the second page in. So we have the assets of the entire city. I think we need to go back one. There we go. So we got a comparative graph here showing fiscal 19 to fiscal 20. And it kind of shows the categories of your stuff, which is the cash equivalents that are unrestricted, that are restricted investments, same that are unrestricted and restricted, receivables and due from government units for grants, inventories, prepaid items. And the biggest category is always your capital assets, and that includes not only trucks, equipment, land, buildings, large amount of infrastructure for the water and sewer system. Also with the streets and a lot of the related sidewalks and things that go with that too. But kind of had some movement between the cash and equivalents and investments this year. I think we've kind of had more of a increase in investments overall. And that's kind of driven by direction that the GASB and the state gives us. And it kind of lends itself to the sophistication of what you're investing in versus simpler things, maybe like savings accounts and CDs and those things. But overall, I think your cash and investments in total went down about $1 million, almost 1.1 million from last year. A lot of the other categories stayed the same. I think capital assets also went down a little bit because we didn't have quite as much invested in additions to capital assets this year. Usually you have a lot going on with infrastructure replacements, and it's usually everything. It's usually the streets and every part of it, as well as the water and sewer systems as well. So kind of a little bit a dip for capital this year.
So I invented my pill. I made sure that you could adjust my patented pill so that you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your speaker.
I think we have somebody with their microphone on. If you could please mute. We can hear the My Pillow guy.
Hold on. I'll try to find it.
Next, we can go to the second page.
I personally guarantee that my pillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
It's really not that comfortable, I promise. My wife bought one. She regretted it. I can't find who it is.
I guess we could just keep moving, I guess. So then we have the liabilities of the city. Accounts payable due to the different vendors, accrued liabilities for wages, payroll taxes, accrued interest payable, which is on the debt, unearned revenue, more long-term debt like installment loans for different pieces of equipment financed by the city, bonds payable. We had the kind of a unique thing this year. We didn't have any new debt issued for the first time in a long time, and just had payments on the existing. So that category went down almost $4 million. Then you also have compensated absences, which is accrued sick and vacation time of employees that's due to them upon leaving employment. That stayed pretty level. The net pension liability went down a little bit from about 28.2 million to 27.8. I think both plans, the MERS and the police and firemen's, did catch up on the liability a little bit this year, so that got a little bit better. And then deferred inflows, which are kind of like deferred sources of revenue that kind of help fund the pension, went up from 800,000 to 1.1 million. Moving on.
Ken,
Yes.
you mind if I go over to the debt schedule real quick, since you mentioned the bonds payable being reduced? Okay, I will show this, that the commission has asked me to present with the audit each year. And there is the balance as of after the November 1st payment. And so we're still making progress downward on that. For the commission's awareness, this part up here is governmental, 3.4 million, and then 22.3 million is the sewer and water, and then we have the parking structure at 2.7 million for a total of 2.8 million, and that does not include any of the compensated absences and other things that can be classified as long-term debt. Thank you.
Next, we'll go on to the graph called net position. And this is the equity or the net worth of the city, and the claim of its assets after any liabilities or debt. So we have the biggest category is the ownership or investment in capital assets. Again, because a lot of your stuff is wrapped up in equipment and infrastructure and buildings. Then you have restricted, which is anytime we have surplus monies, whether it's grant money that's left on hand at the end of the year, or millage money, or anything, debt proceeds, anything that's kind of earmarked for a particular purpose, it's got to kind of stay in that bucket to be used for that purpose moving forward as well. You can't use it just for anything general. It's kind of already earmarked, so it's restricted. And then what's left is the unrestricted, which is still to the negative, like most communities, because of the pension obligations being recorded. Like we're in the 6th year of doing that. When that happened, there was quite a big liability added to the balance sheets, and that made the unrestricted into the condition it is currently. But like I said, you're in the same boat as a lot of other cities and counties. Maybe not so bad because you don't have other what's called OPEB liabilities, which are retiree healthcare obligations. Some communities have those, and that even makes things a little bit harder. So fortunately, you just have the pension, but that's what causes the unrestricted negative each year. Next, we have the revenues of the government funds, which is the general and the special and capital and debt funds, and it kind of shows the money's coming in for areas of taxes, special assessments. I think the taxes, the valuation kind of was pretty close to last year, and the rates were pretty comparable. Other than I think the policeman's fire and pension was increased a little bit. The special assessments looks like we're collected down from 232,000 to 179. Your licenses and permits pretty close. Federal sources kind of bumped up. We had some additional things going on with some of these different grants. Like I said, the CARES Act and some other additional monies this year. State sources went down. We usually have a lot more going on with the capital funds for infrastructure and streets and these things, but not kind of a dip this year with that. And we have local sources, charges for services. The biggest player in charges for services are the fees that the ambulance service collects. I think it's about 900,000 part of that. Then we have rentals, interest earnings on the cash investments, and then other revenue. And other revenue was a lot larger in 19 because of the sale of the land. I think it was the Alfred Park and the Carbide Dock. There was a large parcel sold for $560,000 to LSSU for their project that's started this year. So we didn't have any big land sales like that this year. So more kind of in the area of what we're used to for other revenue, what, 67,000. We have expenses on the functional areas of legislative, which is city council or commission, general government, which holds a lot of things like elections and treasurer, clerk, basic functions, general operations of the city, public safety, like police and fire, public works, like the Department of Public Works and all the things they do with street upkeep and city compost and cleanup and all those things. Health and welfare, which is the expenditures to operate the ambulance department, about 1.2 million. Rec and culture, which is the recreational programs of the city. We talk about like the polar, the parks, ball fields, libraries, things like that. Capital outlay also went down. We talked about the state revenues going down again because of not so much with those projects going on. So not so much being expended, not so much received with state money to do those projects. But here the next year coming up, we're going to catch all those up and get that back up there again. So it'll be more like 19. And then debt service is the principal and interest paid on the general obligations of the debt of the governmental activities of the city, but 554,000. And then we have other expenditures up to 1.8 million. And a part of the reason for that is we've had these projects going with I think with the project down by the power plant with the Lake States. I think it's called it's called the fishery. Pardon? Pardon?
It's the Sea Free project?
Yes. So I think a lot of that is being spent on the project, but I think that when it's going to be completed, that's going to be an asset actually of the college, I believe, in the end. So it doesn't necessarily become capital outlay of the city and a asset of the city. It'll be by a different entity at the end. Next, we have the revenues of the water and sewer fund, showing the charges up a modest amount for 2020. Your other revenue, interest income, kind of comparable, not too much of a switch. Then we have expenses for the water and sewer funds, showing what we spend in personnel, supplies for treatment, contractor services, insurance, utilities, repairs of the system, rentals, depreciation of those assets. Stayed pretty level, but 1.9 million. Interest on the debt, down a little bit to 731,000 compared to 814,000 last year. And then other expenditures about 1 million. So those are all the expenses to operate the water and sewer system. The last kind of financial statement graph is the fund balance. We said the cash kind of went down about 1 million. Your fund balance of the general fund also went down about 1 million, from about 3,088,000 to about 2,088,000. Again, with COVID-19 and just being a more difficult year, probably could have been a lot worse, but I think kind of adjusted well. I mean, you still stayed within your budgets. None of the funds went into deficit, unfortunately. And, we went down to that level of 2,088,000. And the Government Finance Officers Administration, and that's for the whole United States, they have like a floor when it comes to fund balance that they see it being unsafe if you fall below this floor. And it's about 10 to 15% of next year's budgeted expenditures. And you guys are at about 16%, even with falling down to that amount in 2020. So it may, not look so nice, but you're still, in a safe place as far as, what the different federal and state entities consider an okay place to be. But again, we've got to keep watching that, because again, if we have another bad year or 2 bad years, that can put you in a different place. So just got to do our best to manage that.
And do you mind if I switch over to the fund balance calculation where you mentioned about 16%?
Sure.
Okay. So there it is in the yellow column. And here's our 15.66%. And this is our fund balance ratio, and this is in accordance with our fund balance policy, where we agreed to keep it between 15 and 20%. And if it does, the commission has steps that they can take if it does fall below 15%, and it depends, you know, how far below of what action they're going to be taking, but we are still within our policy. So next year, it looks like it's going to increase a little bit according to the budget. And then the next year's, I mean, it's pretty flat. But that's just something that the commission has requested in the past. Thank you.
And I think that's very nice. It shows all the intricacies and details of all that, and allows you to kind of monitor, you know, the different aspects of fund balance and kind of keep that within the levels that you want to during your budget process. That's a pretty nice worksheet. Next, back to the graphs. I think we've got a couple others that just kind of relate to the taxable values of the city, kind of breaking out by the areas of commercial, tax, industrial, which has gone down a little bit from last year. Residential went up a little bit, from about 160 million to about 163 million. So that was a little bit stronger. And then utility also a little bit better, from about 7.7 million to about 8.3. So, you know, a couple of years we've had a little bit of decrease, and the other years kind of an increase. But overall, I think the values were pretty, I think, slightly better. Not maybe not even a whole percent, but you know, still moving forward. Next is the kind of a graph showing revenue sharing. The state of Michigan, the sales tax money collected is distributed to the cities and villages and townships based on a formula, largely of population and different things. We had to decrease this year from 19 to 20 of about, I think, 73,000. Reason for that is because of the state's hardship with COVID-19 and some of their budget shortfalls. They decreased the distribution by that amount. Otherwise, if things would have still been similar and on track, I think you would have continued with that, slight increases in revenue sharing each year. But hopefully with the state, that's, something won't reoccur again. But I think they've replaced, some of that money with the CARES Act money, or they will be. So some hope of that, I hope. Any questions on any of the graphs, or whoever has looked at the report itself, and if anything's come to mind?
Any questions for Mr. Talsma?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, Commissioner Collins.
So according to the graphs, our general fund balance is down by $1 million, and the our other expenditures compared to last year was 1.8 million versus 429,000, which you alluded to coming from the pretty much the C-Free project. Is that $1.4 million difference totally attributed to that project?
No, I think that project was done in a capital fund. This is just the fund balance of the general fund.
Okay, but then you got the other expenditures on our total expenditures for all government funds.
Right.
And you've got a $1.4 million difference there. Like, where does the money come to cover that $1.4 million difference then, or variance?
Well, the other graphs are all the government funds, the general, special, which is the streets funds, and capital. If we want to look at just the general fund, I think its expenses are the general fund's expenses were 12,990,563. Just the general fund's part of it. Total expenditures. On page 19 of the audit report itself.
Okay, I think you had that.
So I guess if we're looking at using the fund balance of like 2,088,000 compared to that 12,990,000, what is that?
About 10 million.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gets us more apples to apples.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Commissioner. Somebody else had their finger up. Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. Just sometimes it's easier for people to understand this in a letter grade, and I know it hasn't been a very good year, so I'll ask the old Bill Lynn. I know last year we had an A-, but I think that a lot of that had to do with the reporting of the Police and Fire Pension Fund, which was new for 2018-19. So what would you give us for a letter grade this year?
I'd give an A, I guess, considering, you know, dealing with the pandemic and everything. You know, and even in spite of that, you know, I think you guys have weathered the storm really well. Done a good job with your finances.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was really, really profound when you saw the slide with the difference in the revenue sharing between 2019 and 20. And these were the estimates that Brian kept telling us. But now at the end of the year, it's pretty clear that the revenue share drastically down. So that makes it difficult to run a city. So thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Ken. And we want to be thanking certainly Finance Director Kristen Collins. Great job. Nice to have a A rating in a terrible time, and certainly nobody could predict what would happen. We don't know what's going to happen next year, and certainly Kristen, you've been great, and you're fiscally prudent. I don't want to say fiscally conservative, but you're fiscally prudent, and you've done a great job at managing the city's finances, and the city manager is doing an excellent job, and I think all of the administration. So moved from an A- to an A in tumultuous times. So thank you very much. And Ken, thank you for your firm's hard work, and thanks for waiting for an hour to get on stage tonight. So we appreciate it.
We thank you, and I'd like to thank all the staff for the city too on working with us to, you know, provide all the documentation. It was a harder year because of working remotely, and you know, we just came and had to get boxes of things and work on some things here in the office, and you know, do things over the phone and email and remotely, and it's a different way of doing things. And we appreciate everybody, you know, kept working with us and made everything come together in the end. So we appreciate their help.
Well, we appreciate it, and this is certainly one of the most important things that we as a city commission do, which is oversight of the financial process. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
City manager, moving on to G, business items number 2.
No, sir, we're not done with G1 yet. We
Oh,
need a
sorry.
motion.
Oh, wow. You're right. I was trying to move it along. Commissioner
Are you on
Collins.
overtime? Come on, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I'll be glad to make the motion. Motion to accept the audited financial statements of the city of Sault Ste. Marie for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, as presented by Anderson Tackman and Company, PLC.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments from the commission before we vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boskus Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Unanimous acceptance of our A grade. Thank you very much. Now
Thanks,
we will
everybody.
move on to item number 2 in business items. City manager.
Thanks, Ken. All righty, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to make some amendments to the existing current fiscal year fee schedule. We internally have decided to break this out away from the budget process. We're going to review it a couple times a year, primarily because we have fees that go into effect midwinter, and we have fees that go into effect in the summertime. And it's not always as clear to make a decision during the spring and summer for winter fees. So we have a series of changes here. It looks like about 4, with the bulk of them being in the water department. We're looking to increase labor rates at the airport, permit and proxy card rates for the parking areas. On Osborne camping sites, we're looking for an increase for $3 for waterfront, $2 for non-waterfront. And then there's a series of increases and services that are being reinstated within the water department. So we would look for a motion and approval of the fee schedule as presented.
Thank you, City Manager. Go through the roll call quick. Commissioner Bosphus-Rath, any questions or comments on this item?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Commissioner Baker, any questions or comments?
Yes, I got a few, mostly within the Parks and Rec portion of it. So for the Parks and Recreation for the summer, for the ball fields, now under A and B in quotes, you got season. So if I'm understanding this correctly, so say Women's League, we only use one field in a season. So are you telling me that the Women's League is only paying $100 for the entire summer?
Let me pull it up here. I'm not 100% sure on what we're telling you yet.
It's on page 28.
28. All right, Parks and Recreation. Weekday, weekend, season. Adult baseball, softball field rental fees per activity group season. Very well could be. Director Collins, do you have any comments on that? I'm not sure. I don't want to misspeak. And Commissioner Baker, I'll tell you this too. These fees probably weren't examined that close because these will probably be re-examined during the budget process possibly. So I'm not 100% sure on these ones. Kristen, you got any comments on it?
I'm sorry. I'm a little unclear. I think that it is that amount per season, but I don't really, I don't know. I'd have to.
Okay. So that's, to me, that's a big thing that I would like to have looked at, because and I play softball, but that is ridiculous if we're only paying $100 for the entire summer season. Now, with that said, I also feel like another one of my questions is, do we have a list of, okay, what the customer receives in services for that fee? Is there a contract that they sign that says, okay, with that $100 the season, we're maintaining the fields, we're doing pickup trash during your games, the bathrooms are going to be open? Those types of questions I feel like should be put on there. At least I would want to know, if I'm renting something, what my money is going towards. I think $100 if it's for the entire season is ridiculous. So I think we could look into increasing that if that's the case. If it's $100 per game, or I would think that would be too much. So I would like some clarification regarding that.
I do really quick. I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I do see I moved my screen and Dan Wires is on here. Dan, can you make any comments to that, please?
Yes, the commissioner brings up some good questions, and that fee structure, I believe, has been in place for quite a few years, and I don't think it's been raised. When you look at that, interpreting it, yeah, if a league is using it for, say, one field for the season, it's $50, and it's our regular users, but also we do have an agreement. It doesn't spell it out maybe in the greatest detail, but we do provide the grass cutting, the trash removal, and the restrooms and that sort of thing. And obviously here in COVID year, it was wholly different. So we do have an agreement with that that's been out there for quite a few years too. And so we can certainly get a copy of that for the commission if they'd like to see that. But yeah, these fees structure has been in place for quite some time.
Now, I know I brought this exact same thing up last year. And so yet again, this is something that has been brought up. A year later, it's still the same way. So we really need to, because this is where we could generate some revenue. I really feel like Malcolm Field could generate some revenue for the Parks and Rec, and to make this much more readable and understandable for somebody that is looking to book and rent, and exactly what they get to make sure their bathrooms are going to be open if they book it for a ball tournament, COVID or not, you know, because they need bathrooms if there's going to be a tournament up there. If you're renting a field and we're allowing them to rent that field to have said tournament, they should have a restroom facility open at that place. Moving on down to the summer part.
Hold on, really quick, Abby, just before you leave,
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on what it is you're saying. You're saying that there would be support to increase those fees, correct?
What
I guess
I'm
not-
saying
I
is,
want to make sure I'm following you on this.
what I'm saying is, what I'm looking at here, no one in city administration can even explain it to me. So how, you can't tell me if I'm paying for an entire season, if I'm paying for a day. If that's the case, if it's for an entire season, I know what I pay for my softball fees, and I do the math on how many teams are up there. $100 for one use for an entire season, to me, that's very cheap. And I feel like we could charge more for that. However, we need to make sure that we have those stipulations of what we're going to do for that said $100. You know what I mean? So all terms are met and everybody's happy. I feel like, I think that that's very cheap, in my opinion, for the entire
So we
summer.
can certainly, that's what, I just want to make sure, because we could certainly do more services at those fields if we had more revenue, right? I mean,
Well,
$100,
right, and
yeah,
that
isn't a lot.
No, and that's what I'm saying. If that's the case, if we're reading it like it's stating right here, and that's the case, if it's $100 per game, I feel like that's astronomically too high for what we have. But so yeah, I would just like some clarification on exactly what we're charging, and if it is that $100 season, look into, you know, charging a little bit more, but offering maybe a little bit better of a service, like being able to do that. And I think that would help out there. My next thing, we're on the winter part of Parks and Rec. For the Polar, I'm confused. So we've got non-ice events, major events to be negotiated, $400 minimum plus OT. Okay, so now in the summer, if you go up to the summer and a non-ice event to be negotiated and approved as appropriate for $550 minimum bid. My question is, why is it set up like that? And why isn't it just set up as an hourly rate? I understand, like, you're renting the space. And I think that, you know, there should be a set rate like you have with the hourly and the, you know, the non-prime time, prime time, non-residents, all of that. Why can't you do that for summertime without the ice on? Versus having to have that negotiation. I think you might get more use out of it in the summer if you had an hourly rate versus the negotiation with the city. It'd be easier for people. Hey, I can go in, I can rent it for an hour. Here you go. Because I mean, realistically, it's, you don't even have ice down. So depending on, I guess if they want more services, then you could increase the pay. Like if, hey, it's this huge event, we need bathroom cleaners there or whatever, but that's more or less on the event planner, I think. So I think that could be something that we could look into to help with the Polar. So that's it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. We'll go to Commissioner Tuardi. Any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Talentino.
Set, Your Honor. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
I'm all set. Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Collins, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Sure.
So I totally agree with Commissioner Baker on her assessment of the fees for the ball diamond and also the Polar Stadium. I think that we need to look at those, so I'm in agreement with that. And I think we need to do it sooner than later because we discussed it last year as well. Brian, obviously you were, not here. So, but the question I have is on the George Kemp Marina, if you look at page 23. So it says fees established based on Waterway Commission guidelines. That's very vague. If you have any idea as far as how the Kemp Marina fees are set, the Waterways has a grade system from A through, I think it's like H or, it's farther than that, it's like JKL. So literally, Brian, can you hear me okay? Yeah, your speaker's not working, man. I did see a voice for that word though.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, but I
Yeah.
saw that.
I don't know, maybe did somebody mute him?
What if I could, but no.
All right. So anyways, the way it's set up is when it says established based on Waterway Commission guidelines, that literally gives us no control over it if we agree to that. So we've got to give it a letter grade. Brian, can you shake your head if you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So just so the commission's aware, this summer I was advised by people down at the marina that they were told that their rates were going to go up. So just to kind of give you guys a kind of history, I've had my boat down there, I think, for the last 5 years. When I first started going down there, very few people had slips at the marina, and it was like $900 for the season. So basically $900 for 3 months. And then since that period of time, it's gone up to like $1,200. So they informed basically both sides of the dock. So the people that have the smaller boats like mine, it's like $1,200. The people that have bigger boats on the left-hand side, it's anywhere between $1,500 and $1,700. They were told that on the bigger boats that their slips were going to be increased $500 next year. And then we were told that our slips were going to be increased up to $400. And obviously it never came to us for approval. So that was my first concern as far as how was that being stated. And then it was identified to me that typically the historic society is the one that picks the rates down there versus, and now I can see if it's worded like this, I mean, basically they can pick whatever rate that they want. They can say, okay, we were an I before, and that was 1,200, now we're going to put everybody at the D level and basically charge everybody the same rate. Just something so that you guys are aware as well, we don't have to follow the DNR waterway guidelines because we have DNR grant funding. We're not actually funded by the DNR. So even though we use their system, we can set our own fees. We can set our fees so we could say, okay, all transient slips that are coming in, we're going to increase the price, but we're going to keep the slips the same. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what we do. I just believe that that's something that we should be doing, not somebody arbitrarily outside of the system of our approval process. So basically what I'm saying is if we approve this the way that it is, we're giving them a blank slate to basically set whatever fees they want, regardless of what we want.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can. I didn't hear all of you though, but I think I remember what you're talking about. So
well, I can recap it real quick. All I said is that by the way that you got it set in here as far as established base waterway commission guidelines, that basically gives the Historic Society the ability to pick any rate on that rate sheet that we looked at before, right? So if we're at a I user rate fee now, they can change it to a D and it's still within the guidelines set by the waterway.
traditionally, yes, traditionally that has been the way it's been set up. But we don't. I don't like this echo. I'm sorry.
All right.
So traditionally that has been the way it's been set up. The group that has overseen the marina has been setting the fee. You can't deviate from the waterways kind of A through M or something like that, their fee schedule.
but the
but
commission should be the ones
approving
those
those
fees,
fees,
kind of
that
placement
placement
on
on
that
that
grid.
grid.
So those fees should still be approved by the commission. Again, we were just looking at some of the winter services and some of the things that we took out. This was something that was on my list to kind of clean up with the budget process here. So I mean, it wasn't anything that we were necessarily looking at. I don't think the fees are necessarily going to change at the camp this year. We talked about it a little bit. They're going to stay the same.
And I mean, just so I'm clear, I'm okay with the rates going up, just not for $500 a pop, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if we want to increase it $100 a year for the next 5 years to get it up to where we want it to be, then I'm okay with that. My understanding is that being that we're use grant funding from the DNR, we're not actually held to the Waterway Commission guidelines. We can literally kind of pick and choose what we want to do. So we could say for transient slips, you're at an I level or D level, which because the closer to the alphabet, A through D, those are going to be higher rates than like J, I, and so forth, right? So we can kind of pick and choose those. Regardless of what we do, I just want to make sure that once we establish it, it can't be changed by anybody else without us approving.
Correct. And that's what the fee schedules, just like any other fee schedule, should be approved and authorized by the commission. And it just never has been that way. And again, just a lot of things that we move into this year that we're kind of cleaning up as we move forward. But yeah, the fee schedule is set by the waterways. The menu of options are set by the waterways. The commission has the choice of placing that fee structure at whatever tier that they so choose.
And my understanding, the reason for that is that because we use their computer system, they can just plug us into the grid so that they know what our fee structure is when somebody goes out to the DNR site to basically do a reservation, right? So
I can't speak to that. I would imagine, I think the city's been on the waterways kind of fee schedule when the marina first opened up too. So I can't necessarily speak to if it's just because it's on the system or not. I can't necessarily speak to that.
So I guess my thought process is that can we vote to approve this with the exception of the Kent Marina, just because of the fact that I know that you're telling me that, you know, we're going to be in control of setting the fees and so forth, but I want to make sure that we're set and basically changing those fees and that nobody else does. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like I said, we can clean that up. Let me bring that, if you don't mind, I would make a recommendation. Let me bring that back at the January commission meeting, only because I'm not sure how to word the motions and all that stuff. We can bring this particular topic right back to you guys the first meeting in January, and then we can clean up that way. So the thing with the fee schedule is we could change the fees at any point in the year. It's not necessarily tied to the budget process or any kind of legislative or statutory requirement. We don't have to do public hearings or anything like that. So if you're okay with it, we'll adopt it, or we would recommend adopting it tonight, and then we'll bring back whatever language kind of clean up for the George Kemp Marina at the first January meeting.
Well, what I'd like to see for the January meeting is I'd like you to bring the waterway fee schedule so that all the commissioners can see that and see exactly what I'm talking about from how they set their fees, right? As far as the grid. So, you know, that will show basically what we've been charging, and then if we want to change it, then we can change it. But there should, I mean, literally there should be a letter associated with this then, right? Like fee schedule established by the Waterway Commission guidelines, you know, letter F, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm cool with that. Okay, cool. Thanks.
I think the finance director had a comment there, Kristen.
I think my hand was raised after Abby.
Okay. Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I just want to point out for as far as like the ball fields and stuff, has there ever, Brian, you probably won't know, but maybe Dan, has there ever been, okay, this is how we want our ball fields. We want them pristine, so we're going to need to get them cut twice a week, every field, and like a cost analysis of how much it costs to actually have the fields pristine the way we really want them. and then basing our fees off of that, so we know we're getting that. Same thing with the Polar. How much does it cost us per hour to run the Polar? Because whatever that number is, we should be getting that 30%, just like within a business. So has there ever been any kind of detail analysis as far as the cost of the breakdown, as far as, so we could compare it to a user fee schedule, as far as cost and what we charge for use?
I can't necessarily speak to that. Dan, can you speak to if that's ever been done?
Parts and pieces maybe over the years. We've done that, but nothing at any scale or formality. I know Kristen does keep track of the revenues and the expenses. I think we've had some of that, but nothing in the greatest detail.
I mean, it would be my recommendation, I mean, to get an accurate user fee, to know that we're covering our costs, and not only covering our costs, but also, again, I would pay more if I had more, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm having a mind blank. More amenities, you know, whether it's the bathrooms being clean or the grass being cut, or I wouldn't have a problem with paying more. It's when you pay and you don't get anything and your stuff looks like, you know, so if we can make it better and we can base it off that base price, it's something I think we should look into, especially if it's never been done other than bits and pieces. It really should be looked at, in my opinion, as a whole. And as far as the Polar goes, it should be looked at hourly. So we know every hour, this is what it costs and this is what we need to make to cover it. So that's just my opinion.
All great questions. There are only 4 fees that they are recommending changes on. So I think Finance Director Collins had a comment or a question. Then we'll move on.
I wanted to say I appreciate the request for more transparency at the Kent Marina. I have asked for those fees many times, and this has been in there for years because those fees are not made available to me, and so they don't roll into the schedule, and then I quit asking. So if the commission would like that waterways fee schedule to be inserted in here, I will seek that information and insert it and get more detail for you and the users out there that would probably like to have that information. Secondly, I did want to say that there is one fee that is kind of needed for this meeting if possible, and that would be the Ani Osborne campground fees. And the reason is because those campers are going to start their reservations on January 1st. So if the commission defers the entire user fee schedule except for Ani Osborne, that would be helpful if those fees can at least be approved. And I understand completely getting back with the rest.
I think city manager's recommendation was that we take action on it as presented tonight, and then he would make amendments at the January meeting to adjust for Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Baker's questions. Is that correct, city manager?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve the user fee schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and or January 1st, 2021 for summer season fees. Commissioner Miller, would you like to make that motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion to approve the user fee schedule for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 or January 1st, 2021 for summer season fees.
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments before we have a roll call vote? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Vasquez-Rath.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you for all the discussion. G, business items number 3, city manager on the phone.
I'm gonna have to file workers' comp for my neck cramp. So Up next for commission consideration.
Computer, it will lose us all, right?
Yes, and that's why I'm stuck on the phone. If I reboot it, I'm going to lose you all. So a couple more items. I'll get through this.
Okay,
My
thank you.
my pillow will make my neck better tonight. So up next for commission consideration is a request from staff to close the Sherman Park campground for the 2021 season. There's a request coming in from the contractors that were associated with this past summer's Sault job. They got behind schedule, so they'll be coming back next summer. Staff is looking to close the campground for the entire camping season. The contractor will either come back and further enhance sites to make them more modern with water, sanitary, and electrical. If we can't do that because there are some wetland concerns, the contractor will just pay the adopted fee schedule for those sites and for the entire summer. So we'd look for a motion just to make sure we can close it for the entire summer so we can work one-on-one with the contractor.
Thank you, City Manager. Commissioner Baker, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm not for this at this time for a few different reasons. I appreciate what they've done there. I think it was a great deal for this year, but with COVID and the situation that we're in and the more outdoor activities that we have, we need to really capitalize on those. And Sherman Park Campground is an amazing campground, and it's the only beach in town. And I also have concerns with kids back in the campground area. I feel like our community members and tourists will benefit from the use of it more so than they've already upgraded what they can, I want to make sure their bathrooms are open this year up there too. And I feel like if we have it open for the campground, that'll be another reason to have it open up at Sherman Park. Those are just my concerns. I understand, the benefits too, but just because of the outdoor activities and the lack of things with COVID, I think people are going to be looking to do more outdoor, and it's an opportunity to have. That's it.
All right, thanks for your comments. Commissioner Twardy.
I too am concerned about closing it. I am in favor of this motion, but I am concerned also. I agree that people need to be able to get out and they need to be able to enjoy their own community. And, we don't know what 2021 is going to look like. So mostly my concern is just coming from the community or being for the community, but I'm still in support of this because I think that it's important that we work with the Sault contractors and that we keep moving on that project. So I hate to see us miss out on that opportunity.
Thank you. Commissioner Talentino.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Twardy on this subject, and for transparency, just so everybody knows, my son is an employee of the said name company. So I want everybody to know that. Being said, I think what's going on up there is a great idea. I don't think we should look at a monetary value. I mean, we should have them do some maintenance and or repair, continue to do what they've done to this point. I mean, it's nothing but a positive. They're putting money into a campground that we basically don't honestly have the money to put into it. I think this is a good thing moving forward. I'll be all for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller.
I wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Baker. I don't think we should have this closed for the next. I think it's great what the contractor did for us this past summer, but I wouldn't want to see it closed again to our folks that are probably they're going to need it. They're going to want to get out and do stuff this summer. So I'm not in favor of this.
Thank you. Commissioner Collins.
I understand where you guys are coming from. I guess my thought process is that with the COVID and what we're dealing with, there's basically no guarantee it's going to be open this summer anyways. So I get this at this point that I'm for it. I mean, if it was any other year, then I probably wouldn't be for it. But being that we don't know what's going to happen with COVID and, with the new strand coming out and so forth, we don't know if there's going to be a whole nother catastrophe coming at us. So I think that for us to not approve this and then, something happens to where COVID or some other virus hits us to where we have to close it down anyways. So at this point, I'm for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Basmas-Rath?
Yeah, I agree with the commission on all aspects. But like Commissioner Collins says, we really don't know what's going to happen. I would hope that this would be the last year that this would happen. And then, in 2022, we say no more. We have it for our community and visitors. But we do need to work with the locks. They've made some great improvements, and I am for this.
Thank you, everybody. And I agree, it is kind of difficult to close it. There are a lot of loyals that have used it, but given the schedule of the vaccine rollout and all the changes, and then the confidence of the communities, I don't see that we may not be able to use it. Anyway, I think that the company's making great progress and they're doing great things. This is a couple $100,000 worth of improvements to a campground that we wanted to make and will serve us well into the future. And we're going to have to just take a short-term hardship, I think, and we'll have a great facility for the public to use. So I'm in favor of working with the contractor. So Commissioner Baker.
Just so we're clear, if we don't allow this, they're not going to not work on the locks. They just got to figure out where they're going to go, right? Somebody made a comment about that us not letting them stay there, that would impede what they're doing, and then that's not the case. And two, I really think now above any time, I don't know why we would be closed the campground aside from maybe the showers and the bathrooms up there during COVID, but you could camp and be 6 feet apart. I think this is when most people are going to be going out to seek that outdoor adventure, to stay 6 feet apart. And I also feel like by opening it up and looking at the fees that we had on there, on the user fee schedule, those could be raised, especially with the improvements that have been made. And again, to generate hopefully maybe a little revenue, plus giving the tourists and that safe, people don't want to go to hotels and use the elevators and things like that anymore. So I'm just food for thought. It's going to be a rough summer for people to get out. And if I appreciate this company, and of course I would love to work with them and things like that, but it's a prime spot for community gathering, outdoor. It's the only beach in town. It's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Good comments. Thank you. Is there a Commissioner Twardy?
But yeah, just my comment was not, it had nothing to do with the rental of this being based upon whether they're going to complete the Sault locks project. That was not at all where I was going at all.
All right. Is there a motion to close the Sherman Park Campground to the public for the 2021 season?
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Collins?
If that's okay. Okay. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
Motion to close the Sherman Park Campground to the public for the 2021 season.
Thank you. Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments before we have a roll call vote? A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Miller,
No.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
No.
Commissioner Baskus-Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed 5-2. Thank you very much. Good discussion. Under G, business items, number 4, city manager.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request from the Dial-A-Ride to approve their Title VI plan as presented. The plan has been reviewed by MDOT and says the only step left is to have the board authorize it. So With this, we would look for commission to approve the plan as presented.
Thank you, City Manager. I don't know what button I hit here, so. Commissioner Tuarty, any comments or questions?
Just a disclosure that I'm the board chair for Community Action Agency and that we help to oversee the Dial a Ride program. So just to disclose that.
Thank you. Commissioner Talentino?
I'm sorry?
Any questions or comments?
No, I'm good, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Miller?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Collins?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Bosbus-Rath?
Just a comment. I don't know if it matters in this or not, but I do work for community action, so just putting that out there.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Baker?
No, thank you.
And I don't see any conflict with either Commissioner Bosbus-Rath or Commissioner Tuarty, and I'm assuming City Manager Chapman, you would concur?
Correct.
All right, so Commissioner Talentino, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, Your Honor. I make a motion to approve Title V1 plan update as presented.
Support.
Support.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Bosbus-Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Under H, City Manager announcements and updates, shifting to some other topics.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things for the commission tonight. First up is the COVID operations update. So as everyone is aware, the governor did extend the restrictions as far as city operations are concerned. Most of the admin staff will continue to work from home. There is a good number of people in and out of City Hall. A few of the departments are rotating the staff that are coming in and out. So we will continue that. I believe it goes until January 15th is the current restriction. Other than that, the only other restriction that would be affecting city operations would be the polar. There is the ability to open the polar back up, so we are putting a plan together to do that. What we can do is limit the number of people at once. It'd be under 34. We're looking at possibly renting it, letting families rent it out throughout the week so that they can come and have the full ice or half ice, depending on what they're looking to do. We're looking to start that back up as soon as we can. We do have a good number of our parks employees out on quarantine right now, so we've got some time so we can pivot and adjust our plans to the current restrictions. So we're working on that right now. Also included in the packet tonight was a customer service survey regarding the on Osborne campground this summer. Whenever we get an opportunity, I like to ask the customers how well we are doing on certain things. So we'll make this an annual process. Staff and I were talking about whether we do it all at once near the end of the summer or if we do it as people are checking out. This particular time we did it at the end of the season. So we sent out about 3,000 emails. We received 729 responses, which if you're a statistics guru, that is a statistically significant portion of the population that we were sampling. Within the survey and within the results that we kind of have here presented to you, you can see their length of stay, how often they come back. Overall, people were pretty pleased with the campground. They're pretty pleased with the staff, the amenities. And going a little bit deeper into the data, there are some opportunities for staff to work on to try to make it a better campground. The last page, page 15 here, shows about 16 things that we're going to work on in the off season to have ready for the next year. Small things like installing the grab bars in the showers, making them a little bit more handicap accessible, possibly looking to increase the Wi-Fi quality, reviewing the reservation policies, and a couple other things there. So we had two questions that were more, what are you thinking? How do you think about this? And we received over 300 to 400 comments for what are we doing right and what would you like us to change. It was tough to really go into a lot of that data. It took a lot of time. So to make it a little bit easier to present, we did throw them in kind of word clouds. So on page 13 here, what are we doing right? You can see staff is one of the top ones. You can even see Trish, the campground manager. She's the one that pops out right there. But the location, the bathrooms, the cleanliness, the staff, the shower, all those great things. The following page kind of shows you the word cloud of some of the things that we could do better. Shower does pop out and the things we could do better. There was some COVID impacts. The showers weren't open all summer long. There's some standing water issues at certain sites that we're going to address moving forward as well. Of course, one that always comes up is the sewer hookup, trying to make those full sites. And again, I'm sure you won't be surprised when I tell you that's kind of cost prohibitive at this time. So a lot of good feedback came back from this. Like I said, we want to make this an annual thing. And we look forward to presenting the results to you guys every summer. So if there's no questions on that, just as a reminder, City Hall is going to be closed the 24th and the 25th, as well as the 31st and the 1st for the holidays. And I will be taking a few extra days off throughout that time. So I will be out of the office. So if there's any questions about any of that stuff, be happy to entertain them.
I got a
Commissioner
question.
Collins.
Great report, Commissioner Collins.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Brian. On the poll, or as far as when you said 34 people, is that 34 people in the building? Is that 34 people in the ice area? The reason I asked that is that, I play hockey on Thursday, and I know that there's different leagues. So in the locker rooms, you might have, 10 to 12 people in the locker rooms, and you'd have, 10 to 12 people per team basically playing on the rink. So obviously at that point, you're over capacity at the 34 number, but they're definitely separated from the standpoint of, only 12 people in a locker room and only 24 people on the ice. If you see what I'm saying? Typically, it runs every hour. So the only way to get away from that is you'd have to have an hour break between, right? So you'd have to give time people to get out and time for people to come in so that they're not in the building at the same time.
So there's two different thresholds on the restrictions for indoor ice rinks. There's one restriction that dictates individual exercise and one-on-one instruction, and that is the one that is maxed out at 34 people on the sheet of ice. There's a secondary set of restrictions that are explicitly for organized sports, whether it be something like the Sioux Eagles or the Junior Hockey Association or any clubs, or even kind of the adult leagues like you're talking about. And those go a little bit more in detail. There's no contact. They have to meet a certain level of COVID preparedness, I guess for lack of a better term, as determined by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. It's a lot more, the rules pertaining to organized sports are a lot more rigorous. If one of the clubs or associations can meet that threshold, we've been more than happy to rent out the ice to them. We did send some of that information out today. We got to do a little bit more follow-up tomorrow because being the state of Michigan, the regulations weren't necessarily entirely clear. So we had to do a little bit of research. But there is a way for the clubs and the associations to be able to come back on the ice, but they're pretty stringent. And if an association can make it, by all means, they can rent the ice. And I'll make sure to send those sports ones out to the commission here before I leave for the night, just so everyone has them as well.
So my last question is that even though that comes from the state, at the city level, how much of that do we actually have to follow?
Quite a bit of it. Quite a bit of it. Yeah, there's liability issues. There's a lot of concerns that if we really deviated from it, what could happen? We could be reported to the MDHHS. Any of those organizations, any of those state agencies, including MIOSHA, they can give us a fine. Those fines range from $1,000 to more. There are communications within my circle of city managers downstate and up in the UP. The state is, I guess I would say, aggressively following up on complaints coming in from concerned citizens or whomever it may be. So if they do find that we're doing something that's not in compliant with the pandemic orders, they can issue a citation. What's the range? I'm not 100% sure, but they can issue a citation. We do know that people are watching the city operations, we've received one notice from, I think it was, I don't remember if it was MIOSHA or MDHHS, but we received a letter from one of them that there was a complaint made regarding the election process. We weren't sure exactly where it was at, and they didn't follow much on that one because it was a one and done kind of thing. But we have received phone calls from concerned citizens about the Sioux Eagles parking all their vehicles in the back parking lot. They were under the assumption that because all their cars were back there, they were in the ice, they were on the ice playing hockey, and they were actually just traveling to an away game. So there are citizens that are watching us pretty close on a lot of that stuff. So, you know, to kind of deviate from any of the rules, you know, I would certainly feel uncomfortable from them, just because that would, you know, that would go against the whole point of my position and making sure the city stays on the up and up. Whether you politically, and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying you in general, whether a person politically supports these rules or doesn't, you know, that's kind of not the point. The point is there are rules out there. There is a stick behind some of these rules, and we certainly need to set a good example and follow them the best we can.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, is that there are repercussions if we as a city don't follow basically the guidelines. So basically the stick is going to be financial, hard, basically either fines or some sort of censure of some sort.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right, any other commissioners have any questions or comments on city manager comments? All right, thank you Commissioner Twardy.
I was going to do it during commissioner comments, but I'll just say it now. And I spoke to Brian about this earlier today. I just want to say thank you to city administration and city staff for all of the amazing things that you've been doing in our community to help support people through the holidays. I just can't get over like the sleigh bell scavenger hunt and the Santa Claus. The Santa Claus route through the city. I know that people of all ages enjoyed that stuff. And so just thank you so much, because I really feel like you're really stepping up, and I'm really proud of our.
Thanks, Commissioner. Great comments. Anybody else have any, Commissioner Baker?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Whoever came up with that scavenger hunt, genius. I saw a lot of people out and enjoying it, and it was the perfect thing as far as COVID fever and getting out and walking around. I also want to give a shout out to our community for, again, pulling together like no other and donating to the Community Cares Thanks program that the Community Foundation and the DDA and Chamber. I think there are over 800 or something gift cards that have been submitted now to give to our frontline workers at War Memorial. So as a wife of a frontline worker, they appreciate it. I think things are getting a little bit better, but they're still struggling. I know the Metal Lodge lost one of their nurses recently to COVID, and then another nurse who just recently retired is down in Petoskey fighting COVID. So it's still out there, still scary. So keep doing the best we can. And I appreciate everybody's generosity for that cause. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. So we'll move on into matters presented by the public. Item I. Is there anybody online that would like to make any comments before the city commission? So matters presented by the public.
Hey, Mayor, how are you?
Good. How are you, Dan?
Not too bad. We are authorized from this side of the border to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all you guys over there.
Well,
that's my matter before the board.
Yeah, thank you very much. Merry Christmas from the city commission and the administration, and certainly the residents of Sioux, Michigan. We miss our friends in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and look forward to the time where we can get back together. This is the time of year, obviously, that we would have a nice dinner with City of Sault Ste. Marie Council, and certainly that is a missed part of our December.
And we have lots of family on one side and the other, right?
Exactly. But we're thinking of you always, and Brian looks out the window longingly at your land in the north. So thanks for being here with us, Dan.
No problem. Have a good night, guys.
You too. Merry Christmas. Anybody else have any questions or comments before the commission? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item J, which is matters presented by the city commission. I know a couple have already spoken, but anything from the commission?
I got one.
Sure, Commissioner Collins.
So I don't know if anybody's aware or not, but tonight the Star of Bethlehem, right, is supposed to be out. So just to kind of give everybody a reminder of that. I know I'm pretty excited to go check it out. I just looked it up and it said that some people think it was 400 years ago. Some people think it was 800 years ago, the last time the Star of Bethlehem, which is actually not a star, but it was actually July 16th, 1623, the last time this event happened. So get out and check out the stars.
That's back when Commissioner Miller was putting his signs up in February.
I'm going to catch the next one. I'll catch the next one, Your Honor.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Thanks for the info, Commissioner Talentino.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. 2020 was hard on everyone, you know, and we've got nothing but good things to look forward to 2021. So to my family, to all yours, everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anybody
else?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody. I think on behalf of the commission
Merry
and the administration, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody. So thank you very much. Great meeting. And we'll see you in the new year.
Move to adjourn.
Or
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. I think Brian